Good morning, everybody. Well, today we've got a big project going on. I've been looking forward to this project for several months, and I've not been looking forward to this project for several months. Today, we're going to be trenching. What are we trenching? We're trenching irrigation pipe from our water well all the way out. We're tying into the barn. We're running over to the new pen over here, and then all the way down to the new chicken house, and we're going to put new waters out there. So we're looking at about 300 feet that way. Then on what you can't see from this point of view is we're tying in to the barn for the new water for the bathroom and the shower. Going around the barn, we're putting in the high tunnel. So we're going to have water out to the high tunnel. We're also going to have water going all the way down the other fence line, all the way down to the fig orchard. We're putting in drip irrigation out there. Well, right along with me applying for the NRCS High Tunnel Grant Program, Summer, my representative here in Escambia County of Alabama, said, I'll give you money to up to 1 acre of irrigation for your orchard. And I was like, really? Wow. And so she's going to pay the irrigation to be installed inside the high tunnel. Our high tunnel is currently on the trailer. It's a 24 by 60, and it's going in right there. We've got pipe going across the front of the high tunnel, and then all the way down the long side of it, and then it goes along the fence all the way back to where our fig orchard is, way back there. So when she told me that, I was like, well, how much is the grant going to be? So for the acre and for the high tunnel combined, I'm only going to be out of pocket maybe a couple of $100. So all this pipe and all the drip irrigation come to about $1,000. And so when they reimburse me, I'm going to be out very little. So if you're establishing an orchard or you're establishing an NRCS high tunnel, also ask about the grant money to have it irrigated, and I'll see if you qualify for that. I did, and I'm highly grateful for it because I was going to end up doing it anyway. It just helps save money. Everything that we do here is going to be marketed. So it's not like I'm doing this for personal use. We're going to be selling trees, plants, fruit. Probably won't be going into the fruit business for the figs for several years. We got to give those things time to get up there and start producing very well. All right, let's go ahead and take the trencher off, and let's start digging some trenching and then putting some pipe in. I've looked up code. Now, what you can't see from this angle is there's two pipes laying right here. One's electrical, one's for water. The big one's got my direct buried cable. I went ahead and put it in pipe, and we're going to put all that in the ground. We're going to put it, NEC code recommends 24 inches in the ground. So we're going to put it 24 inches in the ground. And that's providing currently 100 amp service to our barn. So there you can see, I got my electrical cable inside that heavy duty 1.5 inch pipe. Let's get you set up on a stand, and let's get this trencher off the trailer. All right, guys, that was super fast. That was 700 feet of pipe in 2.5 hours. And that's pretty good, because last time I did any trenching, I did it with one of those that you pull as it trenches, and that thing will wear you out. I did probably close to 1,000 feet, and it took me 12 hours to do it. And it was the most strenuous thing I had ever experienced my entire life. And I kid you not, I had every muscle in my body was sore. I had blisters all over my hands. I couldn't even use my hands for several days. And I was like, never again will I do that. That's why I went and rented this thing. I rented this at my local Ace Hardware, Bondurant's and Century. And I think it's $175 a day. Man, this thing is a Cadillac. It'll go right to town. So I got my spigot down here. We're going to end up putting all the pipe in the ground, covering it up. Hopefully we'll start covering and getting most of it covered up today. But I want to show you the reason we put the spigot down here. This is my fig orchard. So we're going to take the trencher, and we are putting a drip mainline pipe down each one of these rows. Off of the mainline pipe, I'm going to use 1/4 inch drip line that has a dripper every foot in the tubing. It's 1/4 inch tubing. I'm not using drip tape. Drip tubing is what this is. And we're going to do a 2-foot ring around each plant, but I got to put down the main line. Because we have grass in between all of our rows still, we got to be able to cut over that with a lawnmower. So I'm just going to use the trencher just to cut myself a little trench, just shallow enough that drip line, that main line, will go flat even with the ground. Whatever dirt we can, we'll put back over it and let the grass grow back over it. And we will start putting our drip lines in as soon as we can. It probably won't be today because we've got so much stuff to cover up that we've dug. All right, let's get to it. Hush, hush. Pyra, stop it now. All right, I got to the end of my orchard and I got my beehive down here, and the bees really didn't like the sound of the trencher coming by and the vibrating of the ground. So I had to go get my bee suit on, and we're gonna go ahead and finish up this whole end of the orchard so I can take this bee suit off, because this thing will get hot. Even though it's the breathable material that's full of holes, it gets warm if you stay in it very, very long. So we're gonna go ahead and pick back up where we started. All right, we got the fig orchard done. Now we're getting ready to start this row of apples. Next over will be another row of apples, a row of pears, and then I have a 4th row over here that is our arbor, which is grapes and kiwis and stuff like that. So finish trenching. All right, earlier today we laid our PVC pipe down this fence row so that we can water the animals that are going to be in that pen. If you look right here, I got some potted plants. I've got some plants in ground down there. Those are mulberries, and I've got some blueberries I've recently bought and some pineapple guava, and we're going to be running drip irrigation right down through here. And so we got some plans to grow some big fruit trees up over this pen so the fruit drops in there for the animals. We're going to be running drip line all the way down our apple, our pear, our grapevines and kiwi vines, and along the back there is our fig orchard. We're going to be running irrigation to every fig that's in that orchard. And all total, we're looking at 3,000 feet of drip irrigation. If you are looking for a how-to, this is it. This is what I'm going to show you what I'm doing to water every one of these plants on a timed drip irrigation system with the ability to inject fertilizer. All right, I want to start off at the very head of the whole irrigation project. We have this well here. It's a 60-foot well. We have a water table of about 10 foot. This well was already here whenever we bought the place. And I don't know exactly what it was used for, maybe to water the pecan orchard that's already established here. Pecan tree's about 40 years old. But this doesn't tie into anything else, just irrigation. I've never had this tested, so I've never drank from this water. Anyway, coming out of the well pump here is a 1-inch connector. Now, up until recently, everything was plumbed 3/4 inch pipe. And that's just fine if you're just going to run it a short distance and just do some irrigation. There was nothing wrong with that. I was completely happy. Our fig orchard is 500 feet from the beginning of this wellhead to where we have to run it over to the fence and all the way down the fence. We're looking at 500 feet in one direction. My concern was with 3/4 inch pipe, if we continued 3/4 inch all the way out to the end of the orchard, I looked up the amount of pressure loss, and I was really concerned that I wouldn't have enough pressure at the end of my faucet down there to properly irrigate water through all those emitters that I'm going to be using. So I've decided one day when all my other projects were sidelined, I flipped this tank over, disconnected it, and I replumbed everything here to 1-inch pipe. I looked at the loss of, before I did all that, I looked at the loss of pressure on 1-inch pipe to 500 feet all the way at the end of the orchard, and I was only going to lose about 1.5 pounds of pressure. That's great. I feel really good about that. It's a little more expensive to run 1-inch pipe 500 feet versus 3/4 inch pipe. So I went back to the tables and I looked to see where my greatest amount of pressure loss was at. So I ended up running 1-inch pipe off the well out to my barn, and then out to the greenhouse is all 1 inch. From the greenhouse out to the end of my fig orchard is another 200 and something feet. And so with all that calculated in, I was only losing just 1 pound or 2 of pressure. So I'm happy with that. That's a good compromise. I don't have to run 1 inch all the way out to the orchard to get proper pressure. So I wanted to show that with you. Now, I went to Drip Depot and ordered all my irrigation supplies. I looked between 2 or 3 popular sites, did price comparisons, and I spent about $1,000 on this irrigation system. This irrigation system is also partially funded by a USDA grant. When I had my greenhouse, when I applied for my high tunnel application summer, the lady I was working with at NRCS said, "Hey, we'll pay for your irrigation up to 1 acre also." I was like, great. And so she put it in a contract to how much money she was going to give me on 1 acre. And it just about pays for the entire irrigation, pipe, tubing, and everything. And so that's why I'm doing this, and spare no expense, because everything that I'm spending is going to be well worth the price. Because I have 1-inch pipe here, I've got some really delicate emitters that are just drip emitters running on 1/4 inch drip line. They have a tendency where they can get clogged up really easy. So I've got a 0.08 millimeter, which is an 80 micron filter on a 1-inch pipe. And I didn't have this when I replumbed it. So this down pipe goes to everything irrigation. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to have to replumb this and put a filter here. So I want to filter out everything that's on the other side of this pipe. Everything that goes over here is going to help feed water to this future apartment when we get this converted. And I may end up having to put another filter on to filter that, or rewire something, but that's for me to figure out later down the road. All right, now from here, we had to trench water out to our barn, and we also had to trench power from our electrical box all the way out to the distribution panel out at the barn. So we went ahead and laid the water pipe right in with the heavy duty power cables, and we just put both pipes in the same hole. So this pipe is 2 foot deep in the ground. We don't have a frost layer here, so that's not a concern for us. And everything that you see going out in the orchard is only going to be a few inches deep. And that's only a few inches because, like I said, we don't have a freeze line here in southern Alabama, so no reason to bury it a certain amount of depth in order to protect those pipes. We get a couple freezing days throughout the year, and I turn this well off, flip that valve so that I don't lose water down my, go back down into the well and lose prime. And then I drain all my exposed pipes that I've got so they don't bust. But we only get a few hours or a day or two a year that it gets freezing and really have to worry about doing that. But our ground never freezes. All right, now let's head on out and let's show you all the components that I bought and how we are doing our irrigation. I think it's something that you could probably implement, that you could pick up some tips and implement in your orchard if this is the reason you're watching this video, is learn how to do an at-home orchard. All right, we're getting ready to run some mainline tubing down our fig rows. We're going to go down one row, connect over to the end, and come back the other side on another row. I've got some leftover distribution tubing here from the previous 2 runs that we did. I've got a new roll on the back, and I'm going to show you a neat way for us to roll this out rather than grabbing a whole 1,000-foot roll of tubing and going down and unrolling it manually. We're going to use the back of the golf cart and something as simple as a shovel handle, and we're going to spool it off. So let me go ahead. I've got the distribution pipe over here ready for a hose end connector to go on it. We're going to lay it in the outfeed trench to go over to the row, and let's get busy laying out the distribution pipe. Now, I've got a T connector. I'm going to connect a short run of this pipe, and then eventually we're going to have to use a coupling to connect to the new roll of pipe. All right, now that we got our leftover distribution or mainline tubing rolled out, we're at the end of the first row. I've got this 1,000-foot roll loaded, so we just shove a shovel handle through there. We're just going to roll it off the back of the golf cart. But first, I got to put a connector to connect these tubings. So you just get you a 1/2 inch connector and just push the ends together. If you find out that it's a little too hard to try to push these end pieces together, get your little propane torch and just wave it over the ends just to heat them up. Don't sit there and melt the plastic, but just give it a little heat and it'll go in a lot easier. So wave it over the end, wave it over that end, bottom side, bottom side. A little more heat. There we go. Let's see how much easier that goes on right there. That's the secret. And then this end, we'll just wave right at the end of it, right over the heat. And it goes right on. A lot easier. All right, the very first thing we're going to do now that we've laid our mainline pipe is we've got to put a hose in on it. Now, I went with Irrigation because I like the way they fasten. Now, this one will spin and lock right down on the tubing. After you put that tubing on there, you spin this and it'll lock right down on it and create a good seal. There are some cheaper manufacturers out there and the price is cheaper also, but go with quality. If this is going to be out here for years, you don't need your fittings blowing apart. Get something that locks down. Now I have my distribution or my mainline pipe right here at my hose bib. I've got a 4-way timer that I'm going to screw onto here, and then all 4 of my distribution lines are going to be screwed onto their own timed irrigation. Now, let me get this over where I can show you guys. This is the one we just laid. And it's a little rough to put on there. Like that easily does not go right on it. It takes a lot of effort to get that squeezed onto there. So if you just heat the pipe up, it goes on a lot easier. So I get my propane torch and just wave it over a couple of times. Loosen that pipe up. Now it's wanting to go on there. Now see, we didn't melt that pipe. We got it loose enough that we can get that started. So now it's flared on the end. Wait for that to cool off because it's weak right here now because I got it warmed up. And that'll go on a lot easier. Okay, now that we have that on there, I just screw that down and that locks that right into place. And I'll just leave this here. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to each plant and start putting a drip ring around it. So let's go over there and explain that to you. Because we're using drip line, the drip line requires 25 pounds or no more than 15 pounds of pressure. So for each hose end, and you could put this before the irrigation timer, screw that right onto the your hose bib, and then put your timer on this end, and then put your 4 distribution lines, your main lines, onto your waterer. But 15 pounds, so I got a few of those because I've got more than just the one hose bib. I've got one for the apples, one for the trellis stuff, my grapes, and I've got one over at my mulberries and blueberries. So I needed several of these. I've got little 1/4-inch couplings, 1/4-inch tubing. I've actually had to buy 3 or 4 rolls of the 100-foot tubing because at each plant I've got a little over a foot section that's going to tie together the 1/4-inch drip line into the mainline tubing. I've got a punch that punches a hole into our main line, and I ordered several hundred of these 3-way connectors, and this is going to also connect our hoops at each plant, and I'll show you all this in a second. I bought one of these tools, and this tool, you take a coupler, put it in there, and it helps you put that little coupler right onto the distribution hose a little bit easier. We'll demonstrate all this to you in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to show you how I made the loops. Take a 1/4-inch T-connector, and I found out, because I've been hurting the ends of my fingers getting this distribution hose pressed onto the connector, it's really been tearing my fingertips up. So this morning I figured if I take my torch and I just put it on low and just have a little flame, I could heat up the end, and then it slides the T-connector right onto the end of my distribution hose right there. Grab this and I count out 8 of the drippers. That's the size of the hoop that I'm happy with. Like I said, it's about a 2-foot hoop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're going to cut right between the next dripper. Now, to make sure this ends up to be a good size hoop, stretch it straight out so that the bow is consistent. Bring it back together, warm the end of your pipe up, and then put the connector on, and that leaves the end of the connector sticking out right there, so I can put my distribution tubing onto that. I went out into the orchard and I measured the distance from my mainline tubing over to where my drip tubing needs to lay, and I've got about 16 inches from the 2 points. So this is what I had left of the distribution tubing that I ordered, and I just come over about 16 inches. I had it measured out so I know about what that looks like, and I'm just going to cut that there. I'm going to take one end and just run it over my flame, And then that slides right onto my distribution tubing, onto my drip line connector. And if it's a little tough to put on, just run it over the heat one quick time until it's just right. You'll figure out after one or two how long you need to hold it over that flame, but it's probably less than a second to get it warmed up enough. You definitely don't want to melt that so that it ends up compromising the integrity of the joint. So we got our distribution line out here. I'm going to wave that over the pipe real quick, less than a second. And then we take our coupling and just press it right into our tubing. And then we don't have to tear our fingers up because we're using our flame. Okay, one of the little things I wanted to show you is using this tool. Now I just showed you using the propane torch to heat the end of the up so that you could put these little couplers on. But if you buy the tool and you don't want to use the propane, then the little coupler goes right into the mouth of that, and it just kind of holds it, and it holds it in place. Then you take your tubing and you just kind of get it started on the end of the coupling, and then you can squeeze that, and then it puts the little coupler on there for you. Nice and easy. You don't have to worry about using the propane torch. I guess we'll see which one's actually quicker. Seems like this would be a little bit quicker, and I may just stick with doing this. But I don't have a little device to put it on the end of that. And that's the part that was tearing into my fingers up, is putting all that together. So I will keep using the propane on this end for sure. Okay. Okay, so this is the very first one that I did, just to make sure I had everything down right before I brought you guys along and showed you what I was doing. This is the very first coupler I put on, the mainline tubing. I got it in a little trench, and that trench is about 4 inches deep, and that's going to go right out to that loop. I've got a 3-way connector, Irrigation of course, and it ties our loop in together. That one goes down that row of our figs, and this one goes down that row of the figs. All right, so every one of my trees in the fig orchard and the rest of my orchard is going to get this exact same treatment. All right, so that's our main line in the ground right there. I took 1/4 inch coupler, about a foot of 1/4 inch drip distribution line over to our 1/4 inch drip line. So there's an emitter there, and about a foot apart is another emitter, and another emitter, another emitter, here, 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 and here. Decide to measure it out, 8 emitters in a loop, and I'm using that T connector right there to connect it all together. So I was sitting in the house the other night getting everything prepared, and I put this loop together on a T connector, and then this morning when I woke up, I went out to the barn and started hooking in this section. So the emitter tubing that I'm using is 0.3 gallons per emitter per hour. So it's a slow drip. Now I'm going to turn it on a little bit, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how fast or how slow that drip is. So that's all it is to it. I've got my fig tree here. It's trimmed back from the winter. I rake back all my hay, and I put my emitters on the ground because I'm going to come back and cover it back up with hay, mulch, and stuff like that. And all this hay that I'm going to put over it is going to protect it from the sun, and it's going to protect it from the mower. And that's the reason I'm putting the distribution and everything in the ground and then covering this up with mulch, is to protect it all from sun, well, weather in general, and from the mower. So Turn my water on. Let's give it a test run. And I'm gonna turn this one all the way. We got a 15-pound right there. There's the hoop that I just was showing you. And you can see how fast that's coming out of there. I'll hold this up a little bit. You can see it dripping. All right, like I previously stated in the previous segments, that we have got a pressure reducer at the top of this. There's an inline filter, and I put my inline filter because I ordered a inline filter with a 1 inch for a 1 inch pipe. This happens to be 3/4, so the filter that we selected won't fit here without some adapters, so it's upline. So we got 15-pound reducer. I've got my 4-zone timer. It's going to be set up. I haven't selected what my watering schedule is going to be just yet. That'll be for a later video. So each one of these pipes goes to a different zone. Now on my zone, like previously stated also, is they're set up on a loop. Water goes down, hits a 3-way connector, and it goes down 2 pipes, and it works on a loop system solely for the reason of keeping constant pressure the best that it can. So far, I'm very happy with this system. And if there's anything that you recommend, or if there's anything that this video has helped you out on, please let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Flomaton famous. We'll see you on the next one.